For a closer look at Hong Kong, U.S.-China trade talks, and more, I want to welcome Kevin Rudd. He's the former Prime Minister of Australia, who is now Asia Society Policy Institute President. Good morning to you.
Andrew, good to be here.
Is this improving at all? And what should the U.S. be doing?
Well, what we're seeing with Hong Kong, you're talking about Hong Kong, it's bumping along. And frankly, it's not escalating further. It's basically as unstable as it's been. But I think the bottom line is this. If this remains the situation on the street in Hong Kong, there are no real incentives for Beijing to militarily intervene by sending in the army or its paramilitaries, because if you do
does that mean this continues for 6 months, a year? I mean, what's the timeline?
I don't think in Beijing there is a particular timeline. If there's a concern in Beijing, it's whether this radically escalates. Like if you start seeing bombs being used and the rest. Otherwise, if Xi Jinping moves in, it becomes his problem, in world opinion, no longer Carrie Lam's problem. Apart from the fact that they remember what happened after Tiananmen in '89, when China faced massive financial and economic sanctions around the world.
And how do you see this impacting the trade talks at this point?
All I can talk about is Beijing's perspective. I haven't been down to Washington most recently. I think in China, these things are held in two different boxes.
Okay, so they're not connected. You often try to connect them.
I don't think that's the case. So if you're looking at the world from Xi Jinping's point of view at the moment, what's he concerned about first and foremost, apart from the continuing survival of the Communist Party?
Right.
It's the economy. You saw the growth numbers overnight. It's gone in 3 quarters, down from 6.4 to 6.2 to 6. If you look at other data, it's probably a bit south of that.
Okay.
And therefore, that's his #1 concern. So Hong Kong, from his perspective, is a pain in the you-know-where.
Yep. But
main game is the economy and the trade talks with Washington.
And so how much leverage, therefore, does President Trump have more leverage over him as a result of this declining economy? Or is President Xi sitting there with impeachment talks and all of the rest in Washington, as we said, you know, with his popcorn, waiting and with this other view that maybe you try to wait it out for a year? Does that help you? With Democrats, by the way, on the other side, depending if you get Elizabeth Warren, there's a view that she actually taking an even harder stance.
I reckon both these guys are looking at each other at the moment and saying, you're in more trouble than I am. Because there's an argument to be had on both scores, and you know what they are. Sometimes this US-China relationship on trade reminds me of a series I used to watch as a kid growing up. You know, Roadrunner? I presume it's an American show. It's kind of like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. They got to the cliff. This is what happened a little while ago in Washington, the last round of negotiations. They both got to the cliff and said, expletive, that's a long way down.
Right.
And they decided to push the pause button. Normally, Wiley, as you know, goes screaming over the cliff. But this is a four-week pause. Let's see what happens at Santiago when they have this meeting of APEC ministers. On balance, I think they'll get a, quote, phase 1 deal. All the hard stuff's in phase 2. Yep. But what's the bottom line now? They've decided not to accelerate the trade war further. Yeah.